Hello YouTubers, welcome back. Apologies, it's been quite a while since the last video. I'm just going to do a short-ish update video this time, just to introduce a couple of other things that I'm likely to be doing quite soon, and just cover some of the things I've been doing recently. And then hopefully over the next week or so I'll be able to post another one of the switching Greenville videos. There's been quite a bit going on hobby-wise, I guess, recently. You can probably just see over that shoulder there poking in a little project I've been working on. There'll be a little bit more on that later on, and I'll probably do a separate video. Complete different tangent from the American HO stuff. But I'll show you a little bit of what I've done with the extension to Greenville, the shelf that I was doing, and a couple of other little projects as well. So enough of me babbling, let's have a look at one of those first. So another little project I was talking about in a previous video is the extension to Greenville. You might recall that the shelf layout runs into this simple little fiddle stick here. Just a single track, and that was all I used before for fiddling staging the railway. What I've done is added a bridge which crosses over onto this shelf on this other wall here, which is about 7 feet long. And pardon me for the light, I know it's not great. What I've done just for now, just to sort of try things out, is to lay out a very basic sort of little ladder of track for a yard, and just thought I'd have a go at running that for a while before I start wiring it up and thinking about scenics. And what I've found is it works, but it's actually quite tricky to use just because of how narrow the tracks, the gaps between the tracks. It wasn't really giving me the fun I was kind of hoping for. And the idea here as well was that I'd have this kickback siding for storing some power on. So I'm on the right lines. I think I might try it for a little bit more, decide if that's what I'm going to do, use this as a yard, and if that's the case then I'll might have to tweak the track, work a little bit, and then come back and describe the scenics. One alternative I've been thinking about actually is to use this as quite a simple scenic area, just have one industry here or the power, and at the end of this track here, I'll just move this temporary stop, is basically just extend the line to the edge of the track and then have a temporary shelf that can stand at the end of that, and I can extend that out probably about another 4 or 5 feet as a temporary fiddle, which takes the layout even further out actually, which will then run into this area and then round over the bridge over that shelf there and then onto Greenville itself. You can see I've still got Wingfoot on the green underneath there. So we'll see. I shall again provide updates on that as and when. In the meantime I've just got my yellow pine locos stacked up on here. This RS36 was previously a Midland belt one, and you can see I've just started to patch that back to yellow pine. At some point I'm going to strip that and spray it green or yellow, and that will join the fleet. And finally at the end here we've got a little project that's still ongoing. This was a Bachmann Rail America which I've stripped, sprayed red, deckled up for Vermont 201, and I've got snow plough and MUO and hoses and things to go on there yet before I finish that one off, but just a bit of a project. Whoops. So that's the extension to Greenville, which may or may not change in the future. Okay, now for something completely different to the HO American stuff. One of the guys in our modular group, Nick, is the organiser of a small layout show, which is held in the same hall in Armitage in Staffordshire that we do the big modular group meetings. And back in January, I think it was, he asked me if I'd like to exhibit a layout. Quite pleased to have a go at that again. I did consider a couple of things. I mean, I came into the hobby from micro layouts on Carl Arendt's website, and originally started with GN15 and odd stuff like that. So I thought about doing something with that, because I've already got kept all the stock and the figures I'd made and what have you for GN15. But there's something that's been itching away at me for ages that I've always quite fancied doing, is something that portrays or is in the feel of the Colonel Stevens light railways. And I'm not going to go into a lot of that about that at the moment. If you've not heard of Colonel Stevens light railway, Google it, and there's plenty on there. But if you like the idea of 1920s sort of rundown backwater kind of railways in Britain, run on a shoestring, that's the kind of thing I'm going for. So I said I'd build a small layout along that, in that vein. I did consider using 3mm, because again I've done a little bit of that in the past, but because of the time constraints involved, I figured I might as well just go for straightforward 00, standard UK modelling gauge, and build a layout that was what I consider to be a micro layout, so within the 4 foot by 1 foot parameters, with a bit of a fiddle attached to it as well. So that's what I've done, and as soon as I started on the project, I kind of realised that, well, that's all very well, but I've got 0 layout, and not only that, but I've got no 00 stock at all, let alone the suitable. I'll tell a lie, I did have some 00 stuff, but it was all for later BR stuff, so nothing suitable for this at all. So I've had to do this completely from scratch, source and buy the new stock. So anyway, I'll cover that. I'll point the camera at what I've done with the layout so far. I'm quite pleased with it. It's operationally very different to the US stuff, considerably more fiddly. The running qualities of the 00 stuff, even though it's vastly improved to what it has been, is still not up there. I'm having to do a lot more sort of shoving of locos and things, which is yeah, not great. So I don't think long term it's something I'm going to be investing in massively. But as I say, I'm quite pleased with what I've done so far. So I'll point the camera at that, and we'll show you the little layout that's called Winkford Green. Okay, so you can see here, just temporarily perched underneath Greenville on this shelf, we've got the bulk of the layout, Winkford Green. So it's 4 foot across, and over on the left there's actually a separate bolt-on fiddle bit which will go on there as well. Now I am going to do a separate video on this. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I just thought I'd give you a bit of an introduction. Essentially what we have here is trains entering from the fiddle on the left hand side, and this represents roughly a village station on a light railway down somewhere sort of Kent, Middlesexy area. That's the idea, 1920s. So we've got small passenger halt, little coal siding at the front, a little goods siding at the front here, and then a very small lane crossing over here. And what I've also done is there is another exit there which could continue on to another fiddle, so you could end up with through trains, but at the moment it's just operated from the one end. One of the things I was quite determined to add was the windmill, and that's actually a 3D print that came from China on eBay. But when I read about some of the water tanks being powered by windmill pumps on Stevens railways, I thought, well, yeah, got to try and add something like that. So like I say, very brief introduction, and I am going to do a full video on it, but that's Winkford Green. Okay, so I'll just finish off with a few pictures and short videos from last weekend, when our Modular Railroad group met up for one of our operating weekends at the Hall in Armitage in Staffordshire. You can probably see that the group has grown a little bit, and the number of modules available to us has grown a little bit. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this now, because what I hope to do is something a little bit more in-depth. I think I'll do a separate video on this, ideally for the next operating meet, which won't be until later on this year. But just to explain a little bit more about what it is we do, how that's a little bit different from the sort of standard Fremo. The way I think of it is a little bit like the large basement layouts that you see in America that really aren't much of a possibility here in the UK. It's kind of something like that, but in a modular form, and it's very much a team effort. Anyway, I'll just leave you with these shots, and the next video I post will be one of the standard switching Greenville videos. That'll be up fairly soon. And then obviously, I mentioned earlier, I'll post something about the little 00 layout Wingford Green as well. So I'll see you soon.